this is Sara with Posh Pooch Designs, and we're back in the kitchen again because I have a fun and easy polymer clay project I want to show you how to do. With Mother's Day coming up, I'm going to show you how to make plant stakes or flower stakes, and in this video, and then in the next video, I'm going to show you how to make this cozy for your plant. And this is such a neat gift because you can do the cozy in any colors. You can use flowers or herbs or whatever you like, and this makes a great Mother's Day gift. It also makes a great Father's Day gift. Someone having a housewarming party or a birthday, you can do this in a way that they like. Anyone who gardens or maybe just bought a brand new house would love a new plant. Doesn't have to be flowers or herbs. It can even be a philodendron. Let me show you the ones that I made. Here's a paw print. Here's another paw print. Move those out of the way. Here's a butterfly. Even a breast cancer awareness. And you can make these for any ribbon just by changing the color of the clay. Dog bone. A tulip, and look at the back. It says Mom. After we get these made, you can just use a Sharpie and write on there a nice little note if you want to. Here's a flower that's two colors, and here's a little heart, and look at the back. I love you. So there's lots that you can do with these, and they're really easy to make. So what you're going to need first is, of course, some clay. And this is my favorite, the Sculpey. I always call it Sculpty. I don't know why, but it's Sculpey clay. And I'm going to be using green in 3 shades. To make the shape, you're going to need small cookie cutters. And I'm going to be using these 2 leaf ones today. There we go. To make my plant stakes. And you can find any of these little cookie cutters at Hobby Lobby, at Joann's, at Michael's, and you can also find them anywhere that carries baking supplies, has the tiny little cookie cutters. A lot of bakers use them to make shapes for fondant. Just remember, don't mix your clay and baking supplies together. Keep them separate. All right, the other thing you're going to need is some sticks. And these are the little, I think they're about 9.5 or 10-inch skewers. There's 2 sizes of skewers. There's a bigger one and a smaller one. And this is the smaller one. I got a package of 50 for 98 cents. I believe it was at my local grocery store. I've seen them at Walmart, and you can also find them at craft stores as well. And these work great. They have a point on one end, and they're flat on the other. And we'll be sticking the flat end in the clay. So we need clay, we need cookie cutters, we need our sticks, and then we're also going to need a little bit of glue. And this is the glue that I like to use. It's called E6000. You can get it in big tubes or little tubes. I like the little ones just because they're easier to handle. They're just a wee bit more expensive, but they're a lot easier to handle for small projects. That's the best glue that I found that holds the stick perfectly. And then the last thing you're going to need is some sort of a rolling pin. Now remember, you can use a jar or a glass as long as it's nice and clean to use, as long as it has a smooth surface, because you want the top of your markers to have a nice smooth surface. And last thing you're going to need is parchment paper, and I use parchment paper to line my pan, and I also use it as my work surface. So make sure you use parchment paper in your pan to keep the residue from the clay off your pans. Okay, now the very last thing you need is, of course, an oven. And you can use your big oven or your small oven, toaster oven. Both work great. Today I'm using my toaster oven because I'm just going to be doing a few more of my plant stakes. So, before we go any farther, preheat your oven, whether it's the big one or the small one, to 275 degrees. That way it'll be nice and hot and ready to go when we're ready to bake our plant steaks. The first thing that you need to do before you start working with your clay is to wash your hands with a mild soap and dry them real good. That way you don't have any leftover residues from soaps or lotions or anything else. Rinse real good, dry real good, so that your hands are nice and clean. And then choose your clays. I'm going to be using these 3 colors because I'm making some leaves. And what you're going to need to do is knead that clay probably about 3 to 4 minutes and make sure that it's nice and soft and ready to be rolled into a cane. Once you've kneaded your clay until it's nice and soft, roll it out into canes. Whether you're using 1, 2, 3, 4, or however many colors, we're going to roll them out to canes, put them together, and start doing the twist. We're going to twist them all up and bend them all different ways. And the goal here isn't to completely mix in the colors, but rather to blend them together so that you can still see all the colors, and you can roll them out again. You can twist them again. The more you work with the clay, the softer it will become and easier to work with. And then we roll it out again as many times as you want to until you get the color that you want as far as the dispersed within. Okay, I really like that, so I'm going to go ahead and roll mine into a ball. I like the way the colors are going. I'm going to roll it into a ball. And then I'm going to take my rolling pin. Now, if you're worried about it sticking, you can add a little cornstarch to it. And we're going to begin rolling out. Now, we want the thickness to be about we want the thickness to be about 1/3 to 1/2 inch. Because it needs to be thick enough to put the skewer in it and have it hold nice and tight. That's why I'm kind of rolling slow. Turning it over. Oh, that's beautiful. I like how that looked. All right, so I'm going to... Now you can get your measuring tape or your ruler and measure the sides to make sure that it's about 1/3 to 1/2 inch thick. Okay, so now I've got the way I want it to look, and I really like that. It's very pretty. So I'm going to take my leaf and I'm going to just push it down there just like we do when we're making a cookie. We're going to push it out gently. And I want to put my skewer up on this side. So I'm going to take my skewer, I'm going to use the point, and I'm just going to gently go in the side. Don't want to go all the way through, just about halfway. I'm going to take it back out. Then I'm going to use my other end that's flat and sort of spin that around. And now you can see I've got a hole in there, and that's where I'm going to glue that stick in later. And I'm just going to put that on my cookie sheet on the paper, and I'll make a few more so that I'll have several to bake. All right, I'm going to use this leaf this time, right over there. Looks like a little ivy leaf, and I'm going to come up kind of at an angle from here, make my little hole with the pointed end, and then use my other end to sort of gently spin. And you want it to go about 1/2 inch in so that it has something to grab onto. There's my little hole. And so I'm going to put that on the baking sheet. And I'm going to continue to make them until I'm out of clay. I like to stick 2 to 3, and when I'm giving them as a gift, I like to stick 2 or 3 of the little plant stakes just for decoration. And you can also mark them, like if it's a sage or, you know, whatever kind of flower, pansy, you can mark that as well. Okay, so I made 3, and I've got quite a bit of clay left here, so I'm just going to roll it up. And I'm going to continue making leaves until I'm just about out of clay. I've made my leaves. I even took the last bit and just made a little oval. Then I can put a little sign on there if I want to that says to whoever, like to dad or to mom or to sis. And I've got them all laid out in the pan, and now I'm going to put them in the oven. And we need to bake these in our preheated oven that we preheated at 275 for 15 minutes. And I've got some ready that I'll show you how to add the skewers in while we're waiting for these to bake. While we're waiting for the ones we made to dry, I've got a couple that I made yesterday that are ready to go. Now, before you glue your skewers on, make sure you let these rest about 24 hours. And then once you glue them, let them rest about 6 or 8 hours to dry properly before you stick them in a plant, just to make sure they're cured and dry. So what we're going to do is go ahead and glue the skewers on these 2. Here's my glue that I'm going to use. Just going to take that off the lid. And the hole on this one is right here in the side. So I'm just going to dab a little bit right in that hole. I'm going to take a skewer and I'm going to kind of put it in there a little bit, and then I stick it in there and spin it just a little, and I think it just helps the glue set. And then I set it down to dry. Here's another one. The hole on this one is down here on the bottom. So I'm just going to put just a little bit right in that hole. Here's my skewer. I'm going to stick it right down in there and spin it. There we go. Spin it a little bit so it can stay put. And this just set it down to dry. And like I said, let those sit about 6 or 8 hours because you want those to stay put when you give it as a gift. So we glued on our skewers and they're ready to go. We just need to let them dry. And then the other ones that were in the oven are done, and they're sitting over on the counter drying and setting and cooling. So we can't use those just yet. But I'm going to show you. Here's a plant that I picked out. I made a pink cover, and I'm going to also, if you look up there in that corner there, I'll put the link for the video for how to make this pink cozy. It's made out of cotton, and you can make it out of any colors that you want to. It doesn't even have to be solid. You can do it in variegated or change colors as often as you want. I think it'd be really pretty in green, which is what I did the demonstration is done in green and some other colors, and I think it'd be pretty for a herb garden. So all you do is you just pick out some flowers that you think would be pretty or whatever you want to do, and you can just stick that in there on the side or in the top, however that you want. And if you want to personalize it, you just take your Sharpie and you just write right on it. Let's see, I'm going to write Sage, S-A-G-E, right there on there. And then I can put this in my sage garden or not. I don't have to personalize it. I could just stick it right in a plant that I give to a friend. And you can write to whoever that friend is. This is a great project to get your kids involved in. They can do all the kneading of the clay. They can do all of the rolling out because they know how to make cookies, and it's similar to making cookies. Just make sure you get it thick enough. And you probably want to do the sticks yourself and make sure you do the oven and supervise those kids so they don't burn themselves. But it's a great project. Take them to the garden shop for whoever you're buying a plant for. Let them pick out a flower. Let them pick out yarn, or if they're learning to crochet, teach them how to make it because it's not too hard. And then they can put it all together and give it as a gift to grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, or anyone who loves to garden.